History didn't just forget these millionaires, it erased them on purpose. And if you think you know black history, this will prove you were only taught the parts that made America comfortable. Today, you'll meet 7 black millionaires whose names were meant to stay buried. People who built empires, funded revolutions, rewrote American industry, and terrified a system built to keep them poor. Their stories weren't lost. They were deleted. And we begin with a woman whose success America still lies about. Her name was Sarah Breedlove. Born on a Louisiana plantation in 1867. Orphaned at 7. Married at 14. Widowed by 20, with a daughter, earning pennies as a laundress and losing her hair from toxic products. She could have disappeared into history. Instead, she became Madam C.J. Walker, the first. Her haircare empire employed thousands, and in 1919 she purchased a mansion next to John D. Rockefeller to send a message: black wealth belongs anywhere wealth exists. But the system couldn't accept that. For decades, historians tried to credit her success to men around her: her lawyer, her husband, anyone but her. Because admitting a formerly enslaved black woman outperformed America's industrial titans shattered the myth of racial superiority. But she wasn't even the richest. If you're learning something already, hit like. It helps this history reach more people. Annie Malone was born 2 years after Walker, also orphaned young. She didn't just build a company. She built an empire. Her brand, Poro, became a global powerhouse worth $14 million, far more than Walker's peak wealth. She employed 75,000 people, owned an entire city block, and funded schools, theaters, and housing. Walker started as Malone's sales agent. Malone was the original blueprint. But generosity became her downfall. She donated millions to orphanages, black colleges, and civil rights. And in the 1920s, white lawyers and racist courts targeted her during a divorce and drained her wealth through legal manipulation. By her death in 1957, she was nearly erased. Her innovations were credited to others, and her empire was wiped from textbooks. 2 of the richest women in American history, both black, both buried by historical amnesia. Born enslaved in 1839. Shot in the head during the 1866 Memphis Massacre and left for dead, but he survived. With just $50, he bought his first property. Then more. Then entire blocks. By 1912, Robert Reed Church was a millionaire, the first black millionaire in the South. He built saloons, real estate empires, and Solvent Savings Bank, one of the first black-owned banks. When the city segregated black citizens and denied them parks, Church didn't beg for access. He built Church Park and Auditorium with $100,000 of his own money, a cultural and political center visited by U.S. presidents and civil rights icons. His success proved black Americans didn't need white charity to thrive, and so the system erased him. Her origins are mysterious. Born enslaved or free around 1814. What's certain is this: by the 1850s, Mary Ellen Pleasant was one of San Francisco's wealthiest financiers. She built her money quietly, investing in businesses while working as a cook. Some estimates place her modern net worth at $30 million. Then she did something extraordinary. She secretly funded John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry, donating today's equivalent of nearly $1 million. After the Civil War, she sued San Francisco streetcar companies for racial discrimination, and won. In 1866, 90 years before Rosa Parks. But when a white business partner betrayed her, newspapers launched racist smear campaigns calling her a witch. Courts seized her property. Her legacy was buried. She died in 1904, nearly erased, the woman who helped shape California forgotten. Born in Alabama in 1892 to formerly enslaved parents, A.G. Gaston started with nothing, selling peanuts and firewood as a child. He built an empire of insurance companies, funeral homes, motels, and banks, becoming worth $130 million by the time he died at 103. But what made him dangerous wasn't his money, it was how he used it. In 1963, when Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. came to Birmingham, Gaston's Motel became the headquarters of the civil rights movement. When white terrorists bombed it, he rebuilt. He understood that black wealth was more than money. It was protection, power, and resistance. Born enslaved in Mississippi in 1818, Biddy Mason was forced to walk 2,000 miles to California behind a wagon train, caring for her daughters along the way. When her enslaver tried moving them to Texas to keep them enslaved, Mason sued for freedom and won. With no education and no resources except midwifery skills, she began buying land in Los Angeles. By the 1880s, she was one of the city's wealthiest landowners, worth over $300,000. She paid other families' taxes, funded schools and churches, cared for prisoners, and quietly shaped early Los Angeles. When she died, she was buried in an unmarked grave. For 90 years, her story disappeared, until a historian found her deeds in old property records. These 7 millionaires are just a fraction. Historians estimate hundreds of black millionaires existed between 1865 and 1930, but their records were destroyed in courthouse fires, racist violence, and deliberate archival purges. The system didn't just steal wealth. It stole the proof of wealth. Because if future generations knew that black Americans built empires despite slavery, Jim Crow, and terrorism, every excuse for the racial wealth gap falls apart. The erasure wasn't accidental. It was policy. Madam C.J. Walker, Annie Malone, Robert Reed Church, Mary Ellen Pleasant, A.G. Gaston, Biddy Mason. Say their names. Share their stories. Because the greatest threat to oppression is memory. They proved black excellence isn't new. It's been here all along. The receipts existed. The system just burned them. Now you know. And knowing changes everything. Share this video. Subscribe for more untold stories. And tell me in the comments, which legacy shocked you the most? Because remembering is resistance. And resistance is how history finally changes.